Okay, so we love getting those spicy suggestions for our deep dives. And wait, let's just say you deliver this time
Oh, yeah.
when your uterus doesn't fit in paradise by Stephen Pinkwart.
That title alone, you just know.
I know, right? The little blood drop emoji just adds to it.
Absolutely no subtlety there.
None whatsoever. And you know what? I kind of love that.
Yeah, me too. It's like a warning sign, but a really intriguing one.
Exactly. So we are absolutely diving into this one today, unpacking this whole experience of cultural clashes, menstruation, that feeling of being excluded, and then this really interesting twist of finding power through creativity.
Right. Because you start reading, thinking travel, maybe some spiritual
It's a
reflection.
eat, pray, love thing.
Exactly. And then, bam, a very different kind of Bali experience unfolds.
And we're talking all this from just a short online piece.
Sharp but powerful, for sure.
So let's jump in. Where do we even begin with this one? It's like the author sets you up for this tranquil journey, Bali's spiritual haven.
Yeah, and immediately pulls the rug out from under you. You're expecting this serene travelogue, and instead you get this blunt encounter with cultural dogma.
Like head first into it.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not about inner peace anymore. It's about a locked door.
Because of your period.
Because blood is dirty, apparently.
Oh, that sign. That sign is just, I don't know.
It's almost comical how straightforward it is.
No menstruation allowed. Not for priests, not for soldiers,
Yeah.
not for politicians. I'm guessing having bad days too. Nope. For you. Because you're bleeding.
It's the finality of that you that really gets me.
Right. As if everyone else is just fine and welcome.
Exactly. And the reasoning because blood is dirty. It's like saying you can't go into a flower shop because you have pollen on your shoes.
Or being told you can't swim in the ocean because you got a little bit of sand on your feet. It's just so ridiculous.
And then the kicker, the alternative they offer.
Oh, we'll go watch some dancers instead. Like that somehow makes up for being told you're temporarily impure.
As if cultural performances are some kind of universal consolation prize for exclusion.
Exactly. It really makes you think about that disconnect. The image we have of a place versus the reality on the ground.
Absolutely. That tension between the glossy brochure and the sometimes uncomfortable cultural norms.
Right. You travel to experience something different, something new, but then those differences can be jarring, especially when they feel so personal.
And it's not just about missing out on a sauna. It's that feeling of rejection, that clash between expecting open-hearted spirituality and then this very concrete act of exclusion.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder about all those layers beneath the surface of any seemingly idyllic destination.
Right. What's really going on beneath that picture-perfect facade?
But you know what I appreciate about this piece is that it doesn't just wallow in that disappointment.
True, there's this sudden shift in the narrative.
Cut to Denpasar Airport 5 hours later.
Yeah.
Talk about a change of scenery.
From spiritual haven to the fluorescent lighting of an airport bathroom.
It's quite the descent.
It really grounds the story. Back to the mundane, the everyday.
But even in that mundane setting, there's this spark of creativity.
Right. It's like the author's taking that frustration and turning it into something tangible.
And the imagery is so striking. A cigarette, a toothbrush, and the act of writing.
It's almost defiant, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it's not even a fancy pen or some eloquent note scribbled on a napkin. It's a toothbrush.
Who thinks of a toothbrush as a writing tool?
That's the brilliance of it, though. When the author says with the toothbrush as narrator,
Yeah.
that's when things get really interesting.
It's like this unexpected turn into the wonderfully absurd.
And somehow it works.
Oh, it totally works.
Yeah.
Think about it, the toothbrush. This completely ordinary object becomes this incredibly intimate observer.
Right. It's there for those private moments at the start and end of each day.
Literally up close and personal with all our anxieties, joys, even our secrets.
Brushing them all away.
And the author takes this idea even further. What if the silent witness had a voice? What if we channeled all those unspoken observations into a poetry slam?
A toothbrush poetry slam.
Yeah.
Now that's an image.
But it's brilliant, and the examples the author gives are so spot on. This morning she cried again, secretly between toothpaste and lipstick. He lied to her, I smelled it. She smiled, but I felt the crack.
It's those tiny little moments we try to hide or ignore.
But the toothbrush sees it all. It absorbs it all.
No pun intended.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is how this flips our whole perspective. The toothbrush becomes this completely unbiased, brutally honest narrator.
Because it's not invested in any of it. It's
Yes.
just there observing.
It knows more about you than you do because it witnesses those unguarded moments, the cracks in our facades. And importantly, it doesn't lie.
Doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No. It's not concerned with appearances or social niceties. It wears no sorry and lets in bleeding souls without question.
Wow, that's a powerful image, especially in the context of the temple and those cultural expectations.
It's a direct challenge to that exclusion. The very thing considered impure in that holy place is meaningless to this humble bathroom tool.
And it's from that personal observation that the author makes this amazing leap to the political.
Right. If blood is considered dirty simply because it's feminine, then the whole premise of exclusion falls apart.
The whole stage is a farce.
And the way the author uses the color red, it becomes this powerful symbol.
It's not just about menstruation anymore. It's about warning, rage, and ultimately truth.
It's reclaiming that symbol, turning it from something unclean into something powerful and insightful.
And then that line, if a place claims to be holy, but only when you're sealed, then that place isn't holy. It's hollow, empty echoing.
Mic drop moment right there.
It challenges our whole idea of what makes a space sacred.
If it's conditional on suppressing something so fundamentally human, is it really sacred?
Right. It's forcing us to re-examine those definitions.
And then the piece takes this turn towards action, this call for a poetry slam in the bathroom.
I love that idea. It's so wonderfully subversive,
Taking that private moment of frustration, that feeling of being unheard, and giving it a voice.
even if it's just your own voice to start.
Exactly. It's about finding your stage in the most unexpected places.
And the prompt the author gives to the reader, give your toothbrush a voice. It's so simple, yet so brilliant.
It forces you to think about what that toothbrush might have witnessed in your own life.
Those little unspoken truths.
And the example provided is just perfect. I am the toothbrush. I saw her heart break between 2 bites of toast. I smelled his lies in her breath. I heard her tears vanish down the drain. I was there and no one asked me.
It's so relatable, that feeling of being a silent observer to those significant moments in someone's life.
And the author's really pushing this idea of flipping the script, showing how those small personal moments can actually be incredibly powerful.
They can be political.
Exactly. It's about challenging what we consider worthy of public discourse, what gets silenced and who gets to decide that.
And that line, language isn't a toy, language is your weapon. It's a reminder of the power of giving voice to those often overlooked experiences.
Sometimes the biggest barrier isn't the explicit rules or laws, but the silence that allows them to exist unchallenged.
And that's where the author brings the reader, you, our listener, directly into the narrative.
Right, placing you in this text, in this fight.
It connects that specific experience in Bali to this much broader struggle against silence and exclusion.
And then there's the task at the end.
Write that intimate slam poem from your toothbrush's perspective, focusing on those unseen realities.
The blood, the pain, the raw human experience, and then perform it aloud.
It's an act of reclaiming those narratives, giving voice to those unspoken truths.
And that quote, I don't bleed because I'm sick, I bleed because I'm alive. It's such a powerful rejection of that taboo.
It reframes menstruation as this fundamental aspect of life, of being human.
Not something to be ashamed of or hidden away.
And the final encouragement, if the writing hurts, then you're on the right path. It speaks to the potential for healing and transformation through honest expression.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Which brings us to the book recommendation.
Poetry Master Poesycraft in 7 Taken. Or for our English-speaking listeners, Poetry Master Poetry Power in 7 Days.
7 days to unleash your inner toothbrush poet.
The author highlights some pretty bold claims. How to write texts that explode on stage. How to tell your story so hard even temple walls shake. And most importantly, for our purposes here, how to give your toothbrush a voice that makes Bali tremble.
That's quite the endorsement.
It sounds like the perfect guide for anyone feeling inspired to pick up their metaphorical or maybe even literal toothbrush and start writing.
And for those of you listening outside of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, the English link is helpfully provided in the text, https://ban-slam.poetrymaster.e.
So if you're feeling that poetic urge, maybe even a bathroom-inspired one, check it out.
It seems like a fitting resource for anyone wanting to tap into the power of their own voice and explore those often overlooked narratives.
And the piece concludes with this thought from the ever-observant toothbrush. You've got a mouth. Use it.
A simple but powerful reminder of the importance of speaking up, of not letting those unseen truths remain unspoken.
Whether it's about cultural exclusion or the quiet dramas that unfold in our daily lives.
Well, there's definitely a lot to chew on after this deep dive into Stephen Pinkward's piece.
It's thought-provoking, to say the least.
We hope it sparks some ideas, maybe even a little bit of that creative fire in you.
Consider those silences in your own life. What unnoticed stories might your own metaphorical toothbrush be witnessing?
What narratives are waiting for you to give them a voice?
No matter how small or insignificant they might seem at first glance.
Stay creative.